The smell hit me first when I walked into that hotel room. Cheap perfume mixed with something sterile, medicinal. Police tape crossed the doorway, but the officer let me through after checking my ID. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Mrs. Patterson, your husband was found here approximately 4 hours ago," the detective said, his voice flat like he'd given this speech 100 times before. The front desk called 911 when housekeeping heard a thump. By the time paramedics arrived, he'd already suffered a massive stroke. I stared at the unmade bed, at the scattered clothes that didn't belong to Cameron. A red dress draped over a chair. Heels by the bathroom door. Size 7. I wore size 9. Where was he going? I asked, though I already knew the answer burning in my gut. The detective shifted his weight. "Ma'am, the room was registered to a Simone Blackwell. Do you know that name?" Simone. The woman from Cameron's office. The one he'd sworn was just a colleague, just a friend, nothing more than someone to grab lunch with on busy days. I'd met her twice at company events. She had a husband. Kids in elementary school. She'd smiled at me with perfect white teeth and asked about my recipe for peach cobbler. My phone buzzed. My daughter Zoe. 17 years old and probably terrified. "Mom, is Dad going to be okay?" Her voice cracked. "They won't tell me anything and Grandma is crying and I don't understand what happened." I closed my eyes. The hotel room spun slightly. "I'm coming to the hospital now, baby. Just wait for me." 45 minutes later, I stood outside Cameron's hospital room at County General. Through the window I could see him in the bed, tubes everywhere, monitors beeping steadily. His face drooped on one side. His eyes were open but unfocused. Zoe sat in a chair by the window, her school backpack still on her shoulders. My baby girl, tall and beautiful with her father's eyes and my stubborn chin. She looked up when I entered, relief flooding her face. "Mom?" She crashed into my arms. "The doctor said it was bad. They said he might not walk again. They said his whole left side is paralyzed." I held her tight, breathing in the coconut scent of her hair product. Over her shoulder, I watched Cameron's eyes find mine. Something flickered there. Recognition. Fear. Guilt. Dr. Patel entered, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm glad you're here. We need to discuss your husband's condition and care plan moving forward." We stepped into the hallway. Zoe stayed behind, holding her father's working hand. "The stroke was severe," Dr. Patel explained, his dark eyes kind but direct. "He has left-side paralysis and significant speech impairment. He'll need extensive rehabilitation, possibly for the rest of his life. There's a chance he may regain some function, but realistically he's looking at wheelchair assistance permanently and round-the-clock care initially." "I see." "His insurance will cover the immediate hospital stay and some rehabilitation, but long-term care costs can be substantial. You'll need to consider home health aides, physical therapy, modifications to your living space. We have social workers who can help you navigate these decisions." I nodded slowly, processing everything while my mind raced somewhere else entirely. To the hotel room. The red dress. Simone's perfume. "There's also the matter of medical power of attorney," Dr. Patel continued. "As his spouse, you'll be making decisions about his treatment plan going forward. We'll need various signatures." "Of course." The words came out automatically, but my stomach twisted. Back in the room, Cameron's mother Rita had arrived, her eyes puffy and red. She grabbed my hands the moment she saw me. "Natasha, thank God you're here. Isn't this terrible? My baby boy. We have to do everything we can for him. Everything. He's going to need us all so much." I gently extracted my hands. "Rita, can you give me a moment alone with Cameron?" She hesitated, glancing at Zoe, but eventually nodded. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get something from the cafeteria." Zoe looked between us, confused by the tension she could surely feel, but followed her grandmother out. The door clicked shut. Silence except for the monitors. I walked slowly to Cameron's bedside. His eyes tracked my movement, wide and pleading. He tried to speak but only garbled sounds came out. Drool slipped from the corner of his mouth. I should have felt sympathy. 15 years of marriage. A daughter together. A whole life built on what I'd thought was solid ground. Instead I felt cold. I reached into my purse and pulled out the evidence bag the police had given me at the hotel. Cameron's personal effects. His wallet. His phone, which was dead. And a receipt that had been in his jacket pocket. I held it up so he could see it clearly. "Room service from last Tuesday," I said quietly. "Champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. You told me you were working late at the office last Tuesday. You texted me at 9 p.m. saying you'd be home soon." His eyes filled with tears. He tried to shake his head but could barely move. How long, Cameron? My voice stayed steady though my heart hammered. How long with Simone? He made a desperate sound, his working hand reaching toward me. I stepped back. The police told me everything. She was there when you collapsed. She panicked and ran. Didn't even call 911. The housekeeper found you 20 minutes later. 20 minutes you were lying there alone while your girlfriend saved herself. A tear rolled down his face, disappearing into the hospital pillow. They need me to sign papers, I continued. Power of attorney. Care decisions. Financial responsibility for your treatment. I folded the receipt carefully and put it back in my purse. I'm going to need some time to think about all of this. I turned to leave. Behind me, Cameron made a choking, desperate sound. I paused at the door but didn't look back. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall and let myself breathe. Really breathe. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Patterson? This is Simone's husband, Greg Blackwell. I think we need to talk. Greg Blackwell sat across from me in a coffee shop 3 blocks from the hospital, his hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched. He looked about my age, maybe 40, with tired eyes and a wrinkled shirt like he'd slept in his clothes. I found the hotel charges on our credit card statement 2 months ago, he said. When I confronted her, she admitted everything. Said it had been going on for 8 months. Maybe longer. She wasn't sure anymore. 8 months. I tried to pin down when Cameron had started acting different. The extra gym sessions. The new cologne. The way he'd angle his phone away when texting. She said it was over, Greg continued. Swore it was done. I believed her because I'm an idiot. We have 2 kids. I thought we could fix it. He laughed bitterly. Then yesterday she comes home hysterical, saying Cameron collapsed and she panicked and left. She's terrified she'll be charged with something for not helping him. She should be, I said flatly. I kicked her out last night. Told her to go stay with her sister. I'm filing for divorce next week. He finally looked at me directly. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't help you, but I'm sorry. It's not your fault. It's not yours either. He pushed a folder across the table. These are copies of everything I found. Hotel receipts going back 8 months. Restaurant charges. Even a weekend trip to Charleston they took in June. You might need this for your lawyer. I opened the folder. Page after page of evidence. My husband's betrayal documented in credit card statements and time-stamped receipts. In June, Cameron had told me he was going to a medical supply conference. I'd spent that weekend painting Zoe's bedroom with her, listening to music and laughing about nothing. Thank you, I managed. Greg stood up. I hope your husband recovers enough to understand what he lost. Mine already knows. After he left, I sat there for a long time, staring at the evidence. Other customers came and went. The barista wiped down tables. Outside, traffic crawled past in the November drizzle. My phone rang. Rita. Natasha, where are you? The doctor needs you to sign consent forms for Cameron's transfer to the rehabilitation facility tomorrow. And we need to talk about bringing him home. He'll need the downstairs converted to a bedroom since he can't do stairs. We'll need to install ramps and bars in the bathroom. My contractor friend can give us a quote. Rita, I need to tell you something. What? What's wrong? Besides everything? I took a breath. Cameron was having an affair. He was with his mistress when he had the stroke. That's why he was at that hotel. Silence. Then, no, that's not possible. Cameron wouldn't do that. He loves you. Someone is lying. I have proof. Hotel records. Receipts. Even her husband confirming it. I don't care what you think you have. Rita's voice rose. My son is lying in a hospital bed paralyzed and you're making up stories about affairs. What kind of wife are you? He needs you right now and you're trying to make him into some villain. Rita, I'm not making anything up. I don't want to hear it. Cameron made mistakes in his life, but he's a good man and a good father. You will stand by him through this because that's what marriage means. For better or worse. In sickness and in health. Or did those vows mean nothing to you? She hung up before I could respond. I drove to my sister Renee's house instead of going back to the hospital. She lived 40 minutes away in the suburbs with her husband Brian and their twin boys. When she opened the door and saw my face, she pulled me inside without a word. Cameron had a stroke, I said once we were sitting in her kitchen. He's paralyzed. And he was with another woman when it happened. Renee's mouth fell open. What? The whole story poured out. The hotel room. Simone. Greg's evidence. Rita's accusation. Renee listened without interrupting, her hand finding mine across the table. What are you going to do? She asked when I finished. I don't know. Everyone expects me to take care of him. Bring him home. Become his nurse for the rest of my life. His mother thinks I'm heartless for even questioning it. What do you want to do? I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. Renee had divorced her first husband 5 years ago after he'd emptied their bank account for online gambling. Everyone had told her to give him another chance, to think of her boys, to try counseling. She'd filed the papers anyway, and now she was happier than I'd ever seen her. I want to leave, I whispered. I want to walk away and never look back. Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you human. Renee squeezed my hand. You don't owe him your life, Natasha. Not after what he did. But he's helpless now. He can't even speak properly. How can I abandon someone like that? He abandoned you first, while he could still walk and talk and make choices. He chose to betray you for 8 months. You're just choosing yourself now. I stayed at Renee's that night. Zoe texted asking where I was, and I told her I needed some space, but I loved her. She responded with a heart emoji, but I could feel her confusion through the screen. The next morning, I met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Lee. Her office was in a tall building downtown with a view of the river. She was about 50, impeccably dressed, with an air of someone who'd seen everything twice. I showed her Greg's folder. Told her everything. Patricia made notes, asked questions, and finally sat back in her leather chair. This is unusual given the timing, but you have grounds for divorce based on adultery. The stroke doesn't change that. However, you should be prepared for significant pushback. His family will paint you as cruel. People will judge you. Are you ready for that? I don't know, I admitted. But I know I can't take care of someone who destroyed our marriage while expecting me to save him from the consequences. Then let's begin. First thing, do not sign anything making you financially responsible for his care. No power of attorney, no co-signing for medical loans, nothing. I'll draft a separation agreement immediately. You'll need to move his belongings out of your home, and we'll file the divorce petition within the week. My hands trembled signing the retainer agreement. This was real. I was really doing this. When I left Patricia's office, I sat in my car for 15 minutes before starting the engine. My phone showed 23 missed calls. Rita. Cameron's brother. Friends from church. The hospital's social worker. I turned my phone off and drove to the hospital. Cameron was awake, his mother beside him. When Rita saw me, she stood up like she was ready to fight. Did you come to your senses? She demanded. I came to tell Cameron something. I walked to his bedside, looking down at the man I'd loved since I was 25 years old. I'm filing for divorce. I've hired an attorney. I will not be signing any papers taking financial or medical responsibility for your care. You'll need to make other arrangements. Cameron's eyes went wide. He tried to speak, garbled sounds of protest. Rita gasped. You can't be serious. Natasha, think about what you're doing. Think about Zoe. Think about your reputation. I've thought about nothing else, I said calmly. Cameron made his choice when he started sleeping with Simone. I'm making mine now. This is murder, Rita hissed. You're basically killing him. He'll die without proper care. He has family. He has disability insurance. He has options. I'm just not one of them anymore. I turned and walked out while Rita screamed after me about Christian duty and marriage vows and how I'd rot in hell for this. In the parking lot, I called Zoe. She answered on the first ring. Baby, I need you to come home after school. We need to talk about some things. Just you and me. Okay, Mom? Her voice was small. Is Dad going to be all right? I looked up at the hospital building, at all those windows hiding people in crisis, in pain, in impossible situations. I don't know, honey. But we're going to be all right. I promise you that. The movers came on a Saturday morning. 3 men in matching blue shirts loaded Cameron's belongings into a truck. His clothes, his golf clubs, his collection of jazz records, his computer and desk from the home office. Everything that was his and nothing that was ours. Zoe watched from her bedroom window. She hadn't said much since our talk earlier that week when I'd explained everything. The affair. The divorce. Why I'd made this choice. Your father's actions aren't your fault, I told her, holding both her hands. And my decision isn't about punishing anyone. It's about respecting myself enough to not accept betrayal. She cried. Asked if there was any way to fix it, to make the family whole again. I'd cried too, telling her that family doesn't mean staying in a situation that destroys you from the inside. Now, watching the movers carry boxes, she came downstairs and stood beside me. Where's all his stuff going? She asked. To Grandma Rita's house. She has that finished basement. They're converting it for your father's care. Can I still see him? Of course, baby. He's still your dad. My issues with him don't change that. Whenever you want to visit, we'll arrange it. She nodded slowly. Some kids at school are saying mean things. That you're abandoning a disabled man. That you're cold-hearted. My jaw tightened. Small-town gossip spread faster than wildfire. What do you tell them? That they don't know what happened. That dad messed up first. She looked at me with those serious eyes that seemed too old for 17. But Mom, some of the teachers are saying stuff too. Mrs. Henderson asked if I was okay at home. Like you might be dangerous or something. I closed my eyes, breathing through the anger. This was what Patricia had warned me about. The judgment. The assumptions. The way society expected women to be martyrs no matter what. People are going to think what they want, I said finally. We can't control that. We can only control how we respond. Hold your head high, Zoe. We didn't do anything wrong. The head mover approached with a clipboard. That's everything, ma'am. Sign here. I signed. The truck rumbled away with 15 years of shared life packed into cardboard boxes. That afternoon, I repainted the bedroom. Covered the pale blue Cameron had chosen with a rich burgundy I'd always wanted. Rearranged the furniture. Bought new bedding in deep purple with gold accents. Made the space mine. Zoe helped, rolling paint onto the walls with fierce concentration. We didn't talk much, but the silence between us felt purposeful, like we were both processing everything through physical work. My phone rang constantly. I ignored most calls but answered when I saw it was my friend Deandra from work. Girl, I heard, she said immediately. Are you okay? Honestly? I don't know yet. Ask me in 6 months. People at the hospital are talking. You know how it is. Most of them are on your side though. We all remember Cameron from the Christmas parties, how he barely talked to us. Like we weren't good enough or something. I'd forgotten about that. How Cameron would spend work events on his phone or talking to the doctors, ignoring my nursing colleagues like they were beneath him. I'd made excuses for his antisocial behavior for years. Thanks for calling, I said. It helps knowing someone gets it. You need anything, I'm here. And Natasha? Good for you. You deserve better than a man who'd do that. After we hung up, I felt marginally less alone. Monday morning, I returned to work. I was a pediatric nurse at County General, same hospital where Cameron had been treated. Walking through those doors felt surreal. My supervisor Janet pulled me into her office immediately. How are you holding up? She asked, genuine concern in her weathered face. I'm functional. That's about all I can promise right now. Take whatever time you need. We can adjust your schedule. Actually, I'd like to work more if possible. I need the distraction. And the money with the divorce costs. Janet studied me for a long moment. You're stronger than people give you credit for. Always have been. I'll see what I can do about extra shifts. The day passed in a blur of crying babies, worried parents, and routine procedures that required my full attention. It was exactly what I needed. When I had to comfort a mother whose toddler had pneumonia, when I had to hold still a screaming 6-year-old for and 4, I couldn't think about Cameron or Simone or the mess my personal life had become. I was good at this job. Really good. Kids trusted me. Parents thanked me. I made a difference here. That realization hit me during my lunch break. I'd spent so much energy being Cameron's wife, keeping his schedule, managing his needs, that I'd forgotten I was also Natasha, pediatric nurse, who saved lives and comforted families and mattered outside of being someone's partner. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're going to regret abandoning him. What kind of woman does this? You're disgusting. I blocked the number. 3 more texts came from different numbers with similar messages. I blocked those too. Patricia had warned me this might happen. Cameron's family or friends trying to harass me into backing down. She'd advised documentation but ignoring the actual content. They want you to feel guilty, she'd said. Don't give them that power. That evening, Zoe asked if she could go see her father. Of course. I'll drive you to Grandma Rita's. Can I go by myself? Take the bus? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to protect her from whatever Rita might say. But Zoe was nearly grown. She needed to navigate this herself. Call me if you need anything. I'll pick you up whenever you're ready. She left and the house felt enormously empty. I walked through rooms that were slowly becoming mine again. Sat in the living room without Cameron's sports shows blaring. Made dinner I actually wanted to eat instead of his preferred meat and potatoes. Around 8 p.m. Zoe called. Mom, can you get me? Grandma is being weird. I arrived at Rita's house 20 minutes later. Zoe practically ran to the car. She kept saying you'd come to your senses eventually, Zoe said, buckling her seatbelt. That dad still loves you and this is all just fear and confusion. She said marriage is forever and you're breaking God's law. How was your dad? Sad. Really sad. He tried to say my name but it came out wrong. He cried a little. Her voice wavered. Mom, I know what he did was wrong but seeing him like that is really hard. I pulled over into a parking lot and turned to face her. Baby, you're allowed to feel sad for him. You're allowed to love him and be angry at him at the same time. Those feelings don't contradict each other. Are you sad for him? I considered the question honestly. I'm sad that this happened. I'm sad our family fell apart. But I'm not sad I chose to leave. There's a difference. She nodded slowly. I think I understand. We drove home in comfortable silence. Later, tucked into bed, I stared at the new burgundy walls and felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Not happiness, not yet. But peace. The absence of constant tension, of wondering where Cameron was, of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. This was going to be hard. There would be more judgment, more cruel texts, more awkward encounters. But for the first time in 8 months, maybe longer, I could breathe fully. That had to count for something. The divorce papers were served to Cameron at his mother's house on a Tuesday afternoon. I knew because Rita called me screaming approximately 4 minutes later. You served him with divorce papers. The man can barely lift his head and you're divorcing him. You're heartless. You're evil. I hope you rot. I hung up without responding and blocked her number 2. Patricia had warned me this moment would be difficult. Cameron now had 30 days to respond through his attorney, though she doubted he could afford one that would put up much fight. Most of his savings had gone to medical bills his insurance didn't cover, and he was on disability payments now. I felt a twinge of something. Not quite guilt. Maybe residual sadness for what we'd once been. But then I remembered Simone's perfume in that hotel room and the feeling passed. At work the next day I ran into Dr. Patel in the hallway. He'd been Cameron's attending physician. Mrs. Patterson, he said carefully. I heard about the divorce. I want you to know I understand your decision. What happened to your husband is tragic, but what he did to you was a choice. Thank you, I managed, surprised by the support. Too many people expect women to be saints. You're allowed to be human. That small validation carried me through the rest of the shift. But things got worse before they got better. Zoe came home from school on Thursday with red eyes, her usual confident walk replaced by hunched shoulders. What happened? I asked immediately. Mrs. Henderson pulled me aside after class. She said she was concerned about my home environment. Asked if you were providing proper emotional support or if I needed to talk to the school counselor. Zoe's voice cracked. Mom, she made it sound like you were abusing me or something. Like I wasn't safe with you. Rage flooded through me, hot and fierce. What did you tell her? That I was fine. That you're a great mom. But she didn't believe me. She said sometimes victims protect their abusers. Zoe started crying. Everyone at school is talking. They think you're this terrible person. Madison said her mom said you're going to hell. Tyler asked if Dad was going to die because you won't help him. I hate this. I hate all of it. I pulled her into my arms, holding tight while she sobbed. My baby girl shouldn't have to defend her mother to teachers and classmates. She shouldn't have to carry this burden. I'm going to take care of this, I said firmly. All of it. The next morning, I took a personal day and went to Zoe's school. Demanded a meeting with Mrs. Henderson and the principal. Mrs. Henderson was about 60, with gray hair pulled into a tight bun and disapproving eyes that had probably judged countless students over decades of teaching. I'm concerned about your decision-making, she said before I could speak. Abandoning a disabled spouse sends a terrible message to your daughter about commitment and compassion. My husband had an affair for 8 months, I said coldly. He betrayed our marriage repeatedly while I believed his lies. His medical crisis doesn't erase his choices or obligate me to sacrifice my life caring for him. Marriage is about sacrifice, Mrs. Henderson insisted. My generation understood that. We didn't just quit when things got hard. Principal Morris, a younger man who'd been mostly silent, finally spoke up. Mrs. Henderson, that's enough. Mrs. Patterson's personal life isn't our concern unless Zoe is being harmed, which she clearly isn't. Her grades are fine, she's still participating in debate team, and from what I can see, she's processing this situation with remarkable maturity. Mrs. Henderson's mouth pressed into a thin line. I'm here to make one thing clear, I continued. My daughter is not to be questioned about my choices again. If any teacher has concerns about her well-being, they can call me directly. But this interrogation stops now. Principal Morris nodded. Agreed. Mrs. Henderson, Please refrain from any further discussions of this nature with students. The teacher looked like she wanted to argue but finally nodded stiffly. I left feeling marginally better but exhausted by the constant need to defend myself. That evening, Patricia called with an update. Cameron hired an attorney. Guy named Robert Chin. He's filing a response claiming emotional distress and abandonment. Asking for spousal support while he's disabled. Spousal support? After what he did. It's a common tactic. They're betting the judge will be sympathetic given his condition. But we have the evidence of adultery and we can prove he was the one who destroyed the marriage. Plus, he's receiving disability payments. He's not destitute. What happens next? Mediation in 3 weeks. We'll sit down with Cameron, his lawyer, and a mediator to try to reach a settlement. If that fails, we go to court. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the hotel room, the lies, the 8 months of betrayal. Yes, I'm prepared. But was I really? That weekend, I started therapy with Dr. Frances Walker, a black woman in her 50s who specialized in divorce and infidelity trauma. Her office was calm, filled with plants and soft lighting. Tell me what brings you here, she said after we settled in. Everything poured out. The affair. The stroke. The judgment. The guilt I tried to ignore but that crept in during quiet moments. The anger that sometimes felt so big I didn't know what to do with it. You're allowed to be angry, Dr. Walker said. Anger is information. It tells us our boundaries have been violated. The question is what you do with that anger. I don't want to be angry forever, I admitted. But right now it's the only thing keeping me strong. If I let it go, I'm afraid I'll collapse. Anger can be fueled temporarily. But eventually it burns you up from the inside. We'll work on processing these feelings so they don't consume you. Over the next weeks, therapy became my anchor. Dr. Walker helped me understand that choosing myself wasn't selfish or cruel. That Cameron's medical condition didn't erase his accountability. That I could feel sympathy for his situation while still maintaining my boundaries. You're not responsible for saving him from the consequences of his actions, she said during one session. That's not abandonment. That's self-preservation. I repeated those words like a mantra when the guilt tried to creep in. At home, Zoe and I developed new routines. Friday nights became our movie night. We'd make popcorn, curl up on the couch, and watch whatever she wanted. No interruptions from Cameron wanting to watch sports. No tension from unspoken resentments. She told me one night, I'm still sad about Dad. But I like our house better now. It's quieter. Less stressful. That admission hurt and healed something in me simultaneously. The breaking point came 3 weeks later at the mediation. Cameron sat across from me in his wheelchair, his mother beside him. His lawyer Robert was professional but clearly uncomfortable with the facts of the case. My client is willing to forego the adultery issue if Mrs. Patterson agrees to cover 50% of his ongoing medical costs, Robert began. Patricia didn't even blink. Your client doesn't get to forego his affair. It's documented fact. And my client has no legal obligation to fund his care. He receives disability insurance. He has family support. He made choices that led to the dissolution of this marriage. We're seeking a clean divorce with equitable asset division based on his fault. A clean divorce, Robert repeated. While my client is paralyzed and can't work. That's your position. Yes, Patricia said firmly. Cameron made a sound trying to speak. Rita leaned close, interpreted. He says he's sorry. He says he loves you still. He's asking you to reconsider. I looked at Cameron directly for the first time since mediation started. At the man I'd married, loved, built a life with, who now sat broken in a wheelchair partially because of his own choices. I don't love you anymore, I said quietly. I'm sorry you're sick. I'm sorry this happened. But I can't forgive the affair. I can't pretend those 8 months of lies didn't happen. And I can't spend my life caring for someone who destroyed what we had. Rita gasped. How can you say that to him? Look at him. He's helpless. He wasn't helpless when he was sleeping with Simone. I kept my voice steady. He made a choice. I'm making mine. The mediation ended without agreement. We were going to court. Walking out, Patricia put a hand on my shoulder. That was brave. I know it wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, I admitted. That night I didn't sleep. Kept replaying Cameron's face, the devastation in his eyes when I said I didn't love him anymore. Wondering if I was really as strong as I pretended to be. Dr. Walker's voice echoed in my head. You're not responsible for saving him from the consequences of his actions. I held on to that truth like a lifeline, hoping it would be enough to carry me through whatever came next. The house felt different after the mediation. Lighter somehow, like declaring my truth out loud had lifted a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. I started noticing things I'd stopped seeing. The crack in the kitchen ceiling that needed fixing, the garden that had gone wild, the way morning sun came through the bedroom window at just the right angle. These were my problems now. My house. My responsibility and my freedom. I threw myself into work with renewed focus. Janet had approved me for extra shifts and I took every one offered. The pediatric ward became my sanctuary. When I was checking vitals on a 6-year-old with asthma or comforting parents whose baby had a fever, I wasn't the woman divorcing her paralyzed husband. I was just Nurse Patterson, competent and caring. "You're different lately," Deandra said one day during our lunch break. "Calmer maybe. More settled." "I feel like I'm finally standing on solid ground," I admitted. "It's been so long since I felt steady." She squeezed my hand. "It looks good on you." That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the cookbook Renee had given me 3 Christmases ago and actually cooked from it. Lemon chicken with roasted vegetables. Food that I liked, prepared the way I wanted. Zoe set the table without being asked and we ate together, talking about her day, her upcoming debate competition, normal mother-daughter things. "This is really good, Mom," she said. "Dad never liked chicken this way, right? He always wanted it fried." "Yeah, he did." I smiled. "But I always preferred it like this." "Why didn't you make it then?" "Good question. I guess I got used to accommodating him. Forgot to accommodate myself." Zoe nodded thoughtfully. "I think I get that. Like how I always let Madison pick which movies we see because she's really picky and I didn't want to fight about it." "Exactly. But you have preferences too. They matter just as much as anyone else's." After dinner I tackled the garden. Pulled weeds that had taken over the flower beds. Trimmed back the overgrown bushes. Planted new bulbs that would bloom in spring. My back ached and dirt caked under my fingernails, but the physical work felt satisfying in a way I'd almost forgotten. The neighbors across the street, an older couple named Harold and Susan, came over to chat. "We heard about everything," Susan said gently. "Wanted you to know we don't believe the gossip. Harold and I have been married 43 years and I'll tell you right now, if he'd done what Cameron did, I'd have divorced him too." Harold nodded vigorously. "Marriage is a partnership. Can't partner with someone who lies to you for months on end." Their support meant more than they probably realized. That weekend, I did something else I hadn't done since before Zoe was born. I signed up for a painting class at the community center. Saturday mornings, watercolors for beginners. The instructor was a tiny woman named Beverly with paint-stained fingers and a contagious enthusiasm for color theory. "You're never too old to start something new," she told the class of 8 adults, all of us looking slightly terrified of the blank paper in front of us. I painted terribly at first. My trees looked like green blobs. My sky ran into my grass. But Beverly praised my color choices and by the end of the session, I created something that vaguely resembled a landscape. "Not bad for your first try," Beverly said, studying my work. "You've got an eye for composition. Just needs practice." I hung the painting in my bedroom where Cameron's jazz poster used to be. Every time I looked at it, I felt proud, not because it was good but because I'd made it for myself. Zoe noticed immediately. "You painted that?" "In my new Saturday class. It's cool that you're doing stuff you like now." She hugged me suddenly. "I'm proud of you, Mom." At work, Janet called me into her office on a Tuesday afternoon. "I have something I want to discuss with you," she said, gesturing for me to sit. "We're creating a new position, patient care coordinator for the pediatric ward. Someone to bridge the gap between medical staff and families, help navigate treatment plans and insurance issues, that kind of thing. It would mean regular hours, Monday through Friday, a significant pay increase, and honestly, Natasha, I think you'd be perfect for it." I stared at her. "Really? You're one of the best nurses I've got. Parents ask for you specifically. Kids light up when you walk in. And you have a gift for explaining complicated medical information in ways people can actually understand. This position would let you use all those skills. When would it start?" "March 1st if you're interested. That gives you time to finish up your current rotation and transition." "Think about it." I didn't need to think about it. "Yes. Absolutely yes." Janet smiled. "Good. You deserve this, Natasha. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise." That night I called Renee to share the news. "That's amazing," she said, her voice bright with genuine happiness. "See? Good things happen when you choose yourself." I'm starting to believe that. "How's the divorce progressing?" "Court date is set for next month. Patricia says it should be straightforward given the evidence. Cameron's lawyer is still pushing for spousal support, but she doesn't think the judge will award it." And how are you feeling about all of it? I paused, checking in with myself honestly. Lighter. Scared sometimes. But mostly lighter. Like I'm becoming myself again after being someone else for so long. That's the Natasha I remember. The one who used to talk about traveling, remember? You wanted to see Paris, New Orleans, Seattle. I'd forgotten about that. About the dreams I'd had before marriage and motherhood, and the daily grind of life made me forget I'd ever wanted more than routine. Maybe I'll start planning a trip, I said slowly. Once the divorce is final, Zoe and I could go somewhere together. Do it. Life's too short to keep waiting for the right time. After we hung up, I pulled out my laptop and started browsing travel sites. Hawaii looked beautiful. California wine country. The Grand Canyon. So many places I'd never seen because Cameron always wanted to stay home or go on fishing trips with his buddies. Zoe wandered in, curious about what I was looking at. Planning a trip, I told her. Thinking maybe this summer, you and me. Where would you want to go? Her eyes lit up. Really? Anywhere. Anywhere within reason. Hawaii, she said immediately. I've always wanted to see Hawaii. The beaches and volcanoes and everything. Hawaii it is then. Start researching what you want to do there. We'll make it happen. She hugged me again, something she'd been doing more often lately. This is going to be the best summer. The next day at therapy, I told Dr. Walker about the job offer and the travel plans. You're rebuilding, she observed. Creating a life that's authentically yours. How does that feel? Terrifying and exciting in equal measure. Sometimes I still feel guilty. Like I should be sadder or more torn up about the divorce. Guilt is interesting. It often shows up when we're doing something that benefits us but goes against what others expect. You're not guilty of wrongdoing. You're just prioritizing yourself for the first time in a long time. Cameron's mother would say I'm selfish. Cameron's mother isn't living your life. You are. Dr. Walker leaned forward slightly. Let me ask you something. If Zoe came to you 20 years from now and told you her husband had betrayed her for months, then expected her to care for him indefinitely after a medical crisis, what would you want her to do? I didn't hesitate. I'd want her to leave. I'd want her to choose herself. Exactly. So why hold yourself to a different standard? That question sat with me for days. The truth was, I'd spent so much of my life trying to be the good wife, the understanding partner, the woman who held everything together. Somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten that I mattered too. That my happiness, my peace, my dreams had value. Cameron's affair hadn't just broken our marriage. It had shattered the illusion that sacrificing myself would somehow create a perfect life. That being small and accommodating and endlessly forgiving would be rewarded with loyalty and love. Instead, I'd gotten lies and betrayal and a husband who'd risked everything for someone else while I was at home believing his stories. No more. I started redecorating the living room next. Picked out a new couch in deep blue instead of the brown leather Cameron had insisted on. Hung artwork I'd chosen. Created a reading nook by the window with a comfortable chair and good lighting. Slowly, room by room, the house transformed from our space to my space. Every change felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. One evening, as I sat in my new reading nook with a novel I'd been meaning to read for 2 years, Zoe appeared in the doorway. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you think you'll ever date again? Like, eventually? I considered the question. Maybe someday. But right now, I'm focused on figuring out who I am on my own. I spent 15 years as Cameron's wife. I need to remember how to just be Natasha. I think you're doing a pretty good job of it, she said softly. Yeah. I smiled at her. I think so too. The courthouse was smaller than I expected, older too, with worn marble floors and high ceilings that echoed every footstep. I arrived early with Patricia, both of us dressed professionally, her in a sharp gray suit and me in a burgundy dress that made me feel confident. Cameron arrived with his mother pushing his wheelchair, his lawyer Robert walking beside them. Cameron looked thinner than when I'd last seen him at mediation, his face gaunt and tired. Part of me ached seeing him like that. A smaller part than before, but still present. We waited in separate areas until the bailiff called us into the courtroom. Judge Andrea Morrison presided, a black woman in her 60s with reading glasses perched on her nose and an expression that suggested she'd heard every excuse and story imaginable. She reviewed the case file while we all settled into our places. This is a dissolution of marriage with disputed terms, she began. I've reviewed the filing, including allegations of adultery and the respondent's counterclaim for spousal support. Let's begin with the petitioner's case. Patricia stood. Your Honor, my client Natasha Patterson is seeking divorce based on her husband's sustained extramarital affair lasting approximately 8 months. We have documented evidence including hotel receipts, credit card statements, and testimony from the other party's spouse. The affair was ongoing when Mr. Patterson suffered a stroke during one such encounter, after which Mrs. Patterson discovered the infidelity. She presented the folder Greg had given me, now organized and notarized. Judge Morrison reviewed it carefully, her expression neutral. Mr. Chen, your response? Robert stood, clearing his throat. Your Honor, my client acknowledges the affair was a terrible mistake made during a difficult period in the marriage. However, he is now permanently disabled, unable to work, and dependent on others for basic care. He's asking that the court consider his current situation and award temporary spousal support until he can better arrange for his long-term care needs. Mrs. Patterson discovered this affair only because of the medical crisis, Judge Morrison said. Had the stroke not occurred, presumably the affair would have continued? Robert hesitated. That's speculation, Your Honor. Is it? Mr. Patterson, can you speak for yourself? Cameron struggled with words, his speech still heavily impaired. I love, still love. Judge Morrison's expression softened slightly but remained firm. I understand communication is difficult for you, Mr. Patterson. But the court must consider actions, not just words. You conducted an affair for 8 months. You lied to your wife repeatedly. The consequence of your choices is this divorce. Your medical condition, while tragic, doesn't erase your accountability. Rita made a sound of protest. The judge looked at her. Ma'am, you're not a party to this case. Please remain silent or I'll have you removed. Rita subsided, glaring at me like I'd orchestrated all of this. Your Honor, if I may, Robert tried again. Mr. Patterson's disability payments barely cover his medication and therapy costs. Without support, he'll be completely dependent on family charity. He has family willing to help, Patricia countered. His mother has taken him in. He's receiving disability insurance. Mrs. Patterson has no legal obligation to fund the lifestyle of a man who betrayed her trust. Judge Morrison removed her glasses, pinching the bridge of her nose. I've presided over many difficult divorces. This one is complicated by the medical situation, yes. But the law is clear. Adultery is grounds for divorce in this state. The injured party is not required to provide support to the party at fault. She looked directly at Cameron. Mr. Patterson, you made choices that destroyed your marriage. Your wife is not responsible for financially supporting you through the consequences. You have resources available to you. Use them. Then she turned to me. Mrs. Patterson, while I rule in your favor regarding spousal support, I want to be clear. This decision doesn't make what happened to your husband any less tragic. It simply acknowledges that you're not obligated to sacrifice your life for someone who didn't honor your marriage. Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. The court grants the divorce, Judge Morrison continued. Assets will be divided equitably. The marital home goes to Mrs. Patterson given that she's the primary custodian of the minor child. Mr. Patterson's retirement accounts and half the savings will be distributed to him. No spousal support is awarded. Child support will be minimal given Mr. Patterson's disability status and Mrs. Patterson's stable income. She banged her gavel. Divorce granted. This court is adjourned. It was over. Just like that. 15 years of marriage dissolved in less than an hour of proceedings. Patricia shook my hand. Congratulations. You're officially free. Behind us, I heard Rita's voice rising. This is wrong. This is so wrong. He needs help and you're just abandoning him. I turned to face her, this woman who'd been my mother-in-law for 15 years, who'd watched Zoe grow up, who I'd cooked Thanksgiving dinners with and exchanged Christmas gifts with. Rita, I'm sorry Cameron is suffering. Truly. But he made a choice to betray our marriage. I'm making a choice to move forward with my life. Those are separate things. He loved you, she said, tears streaming down her face. He still loves you. Then he shouldn't have slept with someone else for 8 months. My voice stayed steady. I wish him well. I hope he finds peace. But I can't be the one to give it to him. I walked out of the courthouse into brilliant February sunshine. The air felt crisp and clean. Patricia followed me out, giving me space to process. How are you feeling? She asked after a moment. Free, I said honestly. Sad. Relieved. All of it at once. That's normal. Give yourself time to adjust. This is a major life change. I drove home alone, windows down despite the cold, letting the wind rush through the car. At a stoplight, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked different somehow. Older maybe, but also more present. More real. Zoe was waiting when I got home, having taken the afternoon off school with permission. "How'd it go?" she asked nervously. "It's done. We're divorced. The house is ours. Everything's settled." She hugged me hard. "Are you okay?" "I am. Actually, genuinely okay." That evening, Renee and her husband Brian came over with dinner. We ate together in my dining room, the one I'd repainted sage green and decorated with plants. We talked about normal things. Work, the boys' baseball season starting, Renee's plans to renovate her kitchen. "You seem good," Brian observed. "Different from when this all started." "I feel different," I agreed. "Like I've been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale." Later, after they'd left and Zoe had gone to bed, I sat in my reading nook with tea and looked around my home. Everything in it was chosen by me now. The colors, the furniture, the artwork. This space reflected who I actually was, not who I'd contorted myself into being. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy now. You destroyed him." I blocked it without responding. Those messages still came occasionally, but they bounced off easier now. Other people's opinions about my choices didn't have the same power anymore. The next day at work, Janet pulled me aside. "I heard the divorce went through. Congratulations. How are you doing?" "Good. Ready to start fresh." "Good, because I need to talk to you about that coordinator position. We want you to start training next week if possible. The current coordinator is leaving earlier than expected." "Next week?" I blinked. "That's fast. I know it's short notice. But honestly, Natasha, you're ready? You've been ready. Say yes." I thought about Cameron's voice saying he still loved me. About Rita's tears. About the judgment I'd faced from people who didn't know the full story. Then I thought about my painting class. The Hawaii trip I was planning. The woman I was becoming instead of the one I'd been. "Yes," I said firmly. "Absolutely yes." That week I started training for my new role. Learning the administrative systems, meeting with families to discuss care plans, coordinating between doctors and insurance companies. It was challenging work but satisfying in a completely different way than bedside nursing had been. On Friday, I received the final divorce decree in the mail. Official paperwork declaring that Cameron Alexander Patterson and Natasha Marie Patterson were no longer married. I held it for a long moment, feeling the weight of what it represented. Then I filed it away in a folder marked Legal Documents, and moved on with my day. Because that's what it was now. A document. A piece of my past. Not my present or my future. I had a painting class tomorrow. A daughter who needed help with college applications. A new job starting Monday. A life that was entirely mine to build however I wanted. Cameron would figure out his own path forward. That wasn't my responsibility anymore. And surprisingly, I was okay with that. Spring arrived with unexpected warmth, turning the bulbs I'd planted into bursts of yellow and purple across the garden. The house practically glowed with new life inside and out. I'd gotten into a routine with my coordinator position and found I loved the challenge of it, the way I could use my nursing knowledge while also flexing different skills. "You're a natural at this," Janet told me during my 6-week review. "Families are giving amazing feedback. You make impossible situations feel manageable." "I had good training in managing impossible situations," I said with a wry smile. She laughed, understanding what I meant. That afternoon, I attended a regional nursing conference at the downtown convention center. The topic was pediatric care coordination, which seemed too perfect to pass up. The main ballroom was packed with nurses, administrators, and healthcare professionals from across 3 states. During the lunch break, I found myself in line at the coffee station behind a tall man in a blue button-down shirt who was struggling to balance his phone, conference folder, and coffee cup. "Here," I said, reaching out to steady his folder before it hit the floor. "Let me help." "Thanks." He smiled, and I noticed warm brown eyes and a genuine expression that felt refreshing. I'm usually more coordinated than this. First conference in years and I'm already making a mess. First one for me too. Well, first as a coordinator. I've been to plenty as a nurse. "Oh yeah? Which hospital?" "County General." "You?" "St. Michael's, about 2 hours from here." "I'm Jordan Fletcher." He shifted everything to one hand to shake mine. "Pediatric social worker. Natasha Patterson. Care coordinator." We ended up sitting together for the afternoon session since we were both focused on the same track. Jordan was easy to talk to, asking thoughtful questions during the breaks and sharing stories from his own work that made me laugh. "So I had this family," he said during one break, "where the grandmother insisted the baby's colic was caused by evil spirits. Not medical advice, not formula changes, evil spirits. I had to bring in a hospital chaplain to help bridge that cultural gap while still getting the baby proper treatment. Did it work? Eventually. Turned out the baby had a dairy sensitivity, but we had to honor the grandmother's beliefs while also addressing the medical reality. It's a constant balancing act. That's exactly what I deal with too. Parents who want to try essential oils instead of antibiotics. Families who don't believe in vaccines. You have to meet people where they are. Exactly. He looked at me with something like recognition. You get it? A lot of medical staff just get frustrated, but you actually get it. We exchanged contact information before the conference ended, professional colleagues sharing resources. That's all it was. Nothing more. But over the next few weeks, Jordan and I started texting occasionally. He'd send articles about pediatric care he thought I'd find interesting. I'd share funny stories from work. It was casual, friendly, completely platonic. Who are you texting? Zoe asked one evening, noticing my smile. Just a colleague from that conference. Jordan. He's a social worker. A guy colleague? Her eyebrows rose. Yes, a guy. We're just friends, Zoe. Don't read into it. I'm not reading into anything. She grinned. But you're smiling at your phone, which is new. I threw a pillow at her, laughing. The truth was, Jordan's friendship felt easy in a way I hadn't expected. He never asked about my divorce unless I brought it up. He didn't treat me like I was fragile or needed protecting. We just talked about work, about life, about the random thoughts that pop up during busy days. One Saturday, he texted asking if I wanted to grab coffee since he was in town visiting family. I almost said no, worried about how it might look, but then I remembered I was allowed to have friends. I was allowed to exist outside my role as Zoe's mom and County General's coordinator. We met at a cafe near the river. Jordan arrived in jeans and a green sweater, looking relaxed and somehow younger outside professional settings. This is weird, right? He said, sitting down with his coffee. Meeting outside work. A little, I admitted. But good weird. We talked for 2 hours. About our jobs, yes, but also about everything else. His divorce 3 years ago. My situation with Cameron. His love of hiking. My newfound interest in painting. It felt natural, like talking to someone I'd known far longer than a few weeks. Can I ask you something personal? He said eventually. Sure. Do you regret leaving? Given everything that happened with his health? I considered the question honestly. Sometimes I feel sad about how it all went down. But no, I don't regret leaving. He betrayed me for months. I can't build my life around taking care of someone who destroyed what we had. That's not love. That's martyrdom. Jordan nodded. My ex-wife had an affair too. Different circumstances obviously, but I get that feeling of betrayal. How it changes everything. How long did it take you to feel normal again? Honestly? About 2 years. The first year was just surviving. The second year was rebuilding. Now I'm actually happy, which I didn't think was possible during the worst of it. That's encouraging. You'll get there. Actually, seems like you're already well on your way. He smiled. You seem pretty solid to me. We started meeting for coffee every few weeks when Jordan visited his family. Always casual, always friendly. He never pushed for more and I appreciated that. I wasn't ready for more. Might not be for a long time. At work, things continued to evolve. I'd successfully coordinated care for a little girl with cystic fibrosis, helping her family navigate insurance denials and find a treatment facility that accepted their coverage. The mother had hugged me with tears in her eyes, thanking me for not giving up. Those moments made everything worthwhile. Janet promoted me to senior coordinator with a raise and the responsibility of training new hires. I was becoming someone I barely recognized from a year ago, confident, self-assured, focused on my own path instead of someone else's needs. One evening, Zoe showed me college acceptance letters. She'd gotten into 4 schools, including her top choice 2 states away. That's amazing, baby. I hugged her tight even as my heart clenched at the thought of her leaving. I'm scared, Mom. What if I can't handle it? What if I get there and fall apart? You won't fall apart. But even if you struggle, that's part of growing up. I'll be here whenever you need me. Will you be okay? Here alone? I looked around our home at the life I'd built from the ruins of my marriage. Yeah, I'll be okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm figuring out who I am again. It's kind of exciting. Can I ask you something? Zoe said quietly. Always. Are you and Jordan dating? No. We're friends. But could it become more? I paused. Maybe someday. If the right circumstances align. But I'm not looking for that right now. I'm still learning how to be on my own. I think that's healthy, Zoe said seriously. But Mom? I want you to know I wouldn't be upset if you did date someone eventually. You deserve to be happy. Thanks, baby. That means a lot. The next week, Jordan invited me to a casual hiking group he was part of. Just a bunch of people who like being outside, he said. No pressure, but I thought you might enjoy it. I surprised myself by saying yes. The hike was challenging but beautiful, winding through state park trails with views that took my breath away. The group was friendly, ranging in age from 20s to 60s, all of them welcoming when Jordan introduced me. Halfway up, I realized I was laughing, genuinely laughing at someone's terrible joke about bears. When was the last time I'd done this? Just existed in a moment with no weight attached to it? At the summit, Jordan and I sat on a rock overlooking the valley below. This was good, I said. I needed this. You seem lighter than when we first met, he observed. I am lighter. I'm not carrying Cameron's choices anymore. Just my own. That's a nice way to put it. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun start its descent. No expectations. No pressure. Just two people who'd survived their own betrayals, finding friendship in the aftermath. Later, driving home with my muscles pleasantly sore and my mind quiet, I realized something important. I didn't need Jordan or anyone else to complete me. I was complete on my own. If something more developed between us eventually, it would be because I chose it from a place of wholeness, not need. That felt like progress. At my next therapy session, I told Dr. Walker about the friendship. How does it feel to be building new connections? She asked. Scary sometimes, but mostly good. I spent so long being half of Cameron and Natasha. I forgot how to just be Natasha who meets people and makes friends. You're rediscovering yourself. That's exactly what this time should be about. I think I'm ready to start that Hawaii trip planning for real. Zoe and I need something to look forward to together before she leaves for college. That sounds perfect. I left the session feeling centered, clear about what I wanted. A good job that challenged me. A relationship with my daughter built on honesty. Friendships that felt authentic. Maybe, eventually, romance again if the right person came along at the right time. But for now, this was enough. More than enough. I was building a life I didn't need to escape from. And that felt like the biggest victory of all. Zoe's high school graduation was on a warm June evening, the football field packed with families and the air buzzing with excitement. I sat in the bleachers watching my daughter line up with her classmates in burgundy caps and gowns, and felt a complicated mix of pride and melancholy. 17 years since I'd held her as a newborn. Now she was walking across a stage to collect her diploma, ready to leave for college in August. Cameron's mother Rita was there too, several rows back. We'd maintained careful distance since the divorce, acknowledging each other with polite nods but nothing more. She'd brought Cameron in his wheelchair, and I forced myself not to look at him. This day was about Zoe, not our history. When they called Zoe's name, I stood and cheered louder than anyone. She grinned when she saw me, holding up her diploma like a trophy. My girl. My fierce, brilliant girl who'd survived her parents' divorce and her father's betrayal and the judgment of her peers, coming out stronger on the other side. After the ceremony, Zoe rolled her eyes at my endless photo-taking but indulged me anyway. Renee and Brian had driven up for the occasion, and we took family pictures that felt complete even without Cameron in them. Grandma wants me to come say hi, Zoe said hesitantly. Will you be okay here? Go. Spend time with your dad's family. They love you. I watched her cross the field to where Rita and Cameron waited. Rita hugged her tight. Cameron's face lit up as much as it could with his limited expressions. Whatever had happened between the adults, Zoe maintained relationships with both sides. That felt healthy and right. Jordan had texted earlier asking how graduation went. I sent him a photo of Zoe beaming with her diploma. She looks just like you, he responded. Congratulations, Mama. Thanks. One chapter ending, another beginning. That's life. The good kind of change. We'd continued our casual friendship over the past months. Coffee when he was in town, hiking group every few weeks, text checking in on each other. Nothing more but something genuine. I appreciated having someone who understood the complexity of starting over. The next week, Zoe and I flew to Hawaii. 5 days on Maui, just us, the trip I'd promised her. We stayed in a modest hotel right on the beach, spent our days swimming and snorkeling, our evenings trying new restaurants. On the third day, we took a helicopter tour over volcanic landscapes that looked like another planet. Zoe gripped my hand during takeoff, both of us grinning like kids. This is the best trip ever, she said as we flew over waterfalls cascading into emerald valleys. It really is, I agreed. That evening on the beach, watching the sunset paint the sky in oranges and purples, Zoe got serious. Mom, can I tell you something? Always. I was really angry at you at first. When you left Dad. I thought you were being cruel. I didn't understand how you could abandon someone who was sick. My heart tightened. I know, baby. But therapy helped me see it differently. And watching you rebuild your life helped too. You weren't being cruel. You were protecting yourself. Setting boundaries. I needed to see that example even though it was hard. Tears pricked my eyes. That means everything to me. I'm proud of you, she continued. For being strong enough to leave. For not letting anyone guilt you into staying. For showing me that self-respect matters more than what other people think. I pulled her close. You're going to do amazing things, Zoe. You already are. We sat there until the stars came out, just being together in the peace we'd fought so hard to find. Back home, reality pressed in with final college preparations. Shopping for dorm supplies. Sorting through Zoe's belongings to decide what to keep, donate, take to school. The house felt bigger knowing she'd be gone soon. Jordan invited me to a concert at an outdoor venue, a blues artist he loved. I almost declined, worried it felt too date-like, but he assured me the whole hiking group was going. The night was perfect. Warm air, great music, friends laughing together. Jordan and I ended up sitting on a blanket sharing snacks while the band played, talking about nothing important. Can I tell you something? He said during a break between sets. Sure. I really value what we've built here. This friendship. I don't want to mess it up by pushing for something you're not ready for. But I also want you to know that I see you. And I think you're pretty remarkable. My breath caught. Jordan? I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. Just wanted you to know. No pressure. We continue as we are unless you decide otherwise. I'm not ready for a relationship, I said honestly. I'm still figuring myself out. But I value this too. Your friendship means a lot. Then that's enough. He smiled. For now at least. The honesty between us felt refreshing. No games. No pressure. Just two people being real with each other. A week before Zoe left for college, I took her to therapy with me. Dr. Walker had suggested a joint session to help us process the transition. How are you feeling about college? Dr. Walker asked Zoe. Excited. Scared. Guilty about leaving Mom alone. You shouldn't feel guilty, I said immediately. This is what I want for you. To have your own adventures, your own life. But what about you? What if you get lonely? Then I'll figure it out. I've gotten pretty good at that lately. I squeezed her hand. Baby, you leaving doesn't mean I'm falling apart. It means I raised a daughter confident enough to chase her dreams. That's success, not loss. Dr. Walker nodded approvingly. Natasha, how are you preparing for the adjustment? I've been thinking about taking more painting classes. Maybe joining a book club. Continuing with the hiking group. I have options. And Jordan? Zoe asked, a slight smile on her face. Jordan is a friend. That's all right now. But he likes you. I can tell. Maybe. But I'm not making decisions based on who likes me. I'm making them based on what I want and what feels right. The session helped clarify that Zoe's leaving was natural and healthy. That my life could be full and satisfying even with an empty nest. That we could both move forward into new chapters without either of us losing anything essential. Move-in day arrived too quickly. We loaded Zoe's belongings into my car and drove 2 states over to her university. The campus was beautiful, full of other nervous students and parents. Her roommate seemed nice, a girl named Ashley from Tennessee who loved the same music Zoe did. Setting up her dorm room felt surreal. Hanging posters, organizing her desk, making her bed with the new sheets we picked out together. This small space was hers now. Her independence. Her future. I'm going to miss you so much, Zoe said when it was time for me to leave. I'll miss you too. But you're going to call me constantly and we'll video chat and you'll be home for breaks. This isn't goodbye. It's see you later. We hugged for a long time. My baby girl, not really a baby anymore but always mine. The drive home was long and quiet. I cried a little, missing her already. But underneath the sadness was pride. She was launching into the world prepared and confident. I'd done my job as a mother. The house felt enormous and empty that first night. I wandered through rooms that used to hold a family of 3, then 2 and now just me. Sat in my reading nook with tea and thought about all the changes that had brought me here. A year ago, I'd been discovering my husband's affair while he lay paralyzed in a hospital. Now I had a career I loved, a daughter thriving in college, friendships that fed my soul, and the beginning of peace with who I was. My phone buzzed. Jordan. How'd drop-off go? Hard but good. House is really empty now. Want company? I could bring takeout and we could watch something mindless. I hesitated only a moment. That sounds perfect. An hour later we sat on my couch with Chinese food, watching a nature documentary about penguins. Jordan didn't try anything. Just sat beside me, offering quiet companionship when I needed it most. Thank you, I said eventually. For being here. For not making this weird. Where else would I be? Friends show up for each other. Friends. For now that was exactly right. And if it became more someday that would be okay too. But I didn't need it to. I was already whole. That realization felt like coming home to myself. Fall arrived with cooler temperatures and leaves turning gold. Zoe had been at college for 2 months, calling regularly to share stories about classes and new friends. She sounded happy, settled. Exactly what I'd hoped for. I'd thrown myself into work and hobbies, filling the empty house with new routines. Saturday morning painting classes had become a sacred ritual. The hiking group met every Sunday. I'd even joined a book club that met monthly at the library. Then on a Tuesday evening in October, Rita called. I almost didn't answer. We'd maintained radio silence since graduation except for brief coordination about Zoe's visits. But something made me pick up. Natasha, I need to talk to you. Her voice sounded tired, none of the anger from before. Cameron wants to see you. Not to ask you back or anything. He just wants to apologize. Properly. Rita, I don't think that's a good idea. Please. He's been working with a speech therapist. He can communicate better now. He's written things out too in case he struggles with words. He knows he ruined everything. He just wants a chance to say he's sorry without divorce lawyers and court proceedings in the way. I closed my eyes, leaning against my kitchen counter. Did I want this? Needed it? If I agree, it's on my terms. Neutral location. Public place. And Zoe can be there if she wants, but no pressure on her either. Okay. Whatever you're comfortable with. I'll think about it. I called Dr. Walker for an emergency phone session. What do you want from this meeting if you choose to go? She asked. I don't know. Closure maybe? Or proof that I've really moved on. Those are two different things. Closure suggests you need something from him to feel complete. Proof suggests you're testing yourself. I sat with that for a moment. Maybe both. Maybe I need to see him one more time to fully close that chapter. Then go, but be clear about your boundaries. You don't owe him forgiveness. You don't owe him comfort. This is for you, not him. I called Rita back the next day. I'll meet with him. Coffee shop on Elm Street, Saturday at 2 p.m. Neutral, public, time limited. Thank you, Natasha. This means a lot to him. I told Zoe about it during our weekly video chat. Do you want me to come home for it? She asked immediately. Only if you want to be there. Not because you feel obligated. She thought for a moment. I think I do want to be there. I have things to say to Dad too. Not angry things, just honest things. Okay then. We'll do this together. Saturday arrived cold and clear. I dressed carefully in dark jeans and a green sweater, wanting to look put together without seeming like I'd tried too hard. Zoe drove home Friday night and we talked until late, preparing ourselves for whatever this meeting might bring. The coffee shop was busy with weekend crowds. I'd chosen it deliberately, public enough that Cameron couldn't make a scene, busy enough that we wouldn't feel isolated. Rita pushed Cameron's wheelchair through the door at exactly 2 p.m. He'd lost more weight, his face gaunt. But his eyes were clearer than I remembered, more present. He wore a blue shirt that I recognized from years ago. We settled at a corner table. The barista brought our drinks. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Thank you for coming, Rita said finally, glancing at Cameron. He nodded, then pulled out a piece of paper with shaking hands. Started to read what he'd written, his speech still impaired but much more understandable than before. Natasha. Zoe. I'm sorry. So sorry. What I did was wrong. Lying. Cheating. Destroying our family. Can't take it back. But I need you to know. I know. I know what I did. Tears ran down his face. I felt a twinge of sympathy, but it didn't overwhelm me like I'd feared. I don't expect forgiveness, he continued slowly. Just wanted to say it. That I'm sorry. That you deserve better. That I was selfish and stupid and threw away everything that mattered. He looked at Zoe. I'm sorry I hurt your mom. Sorry I embarrassed you. Sorry I wasn't the dad you deserved. Zoe's eyes were wet, but she kept her voice steady. I still love you, Dad. But I'm not going to pretend what you did was okay. Mom didn't abandon you. You abandoned her first. I needed to see her stand up for herself, even though it was hard to watch. I know, Cameron whispered. Your mom is strong. Stronger than me. Then he turned to me. I still love you. Can't help it. But I don't expect anything. Just wanted you to know, you were right to leave. I would have left me too. I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. Cameron, I accept your apology. I believe you're sorry. But that doesn't change anything between us. We're not getting back together. We're not going to be friends. We're divorced, and that was the right decision for both of us. I know. He nodded jerkily. Just needed to say it. I'm not angry anymore, I continued, realizing it was true as I said it. I was for a long time. But I've moved on. Built a life that's mine. What you did hurt me deeply, but it also freed me from a marriage that wasn't working for either of us. Are you happy? He asked, his voice barely audible. I considered the question honestly. I'm getting there. I have a job I love. Zoe is thriving. I'm discovering who I am outside of being someone's wife. So yeah, I think I'm on my way to happy. Something like relief crossed his face. Good. You deserve that. We talked for another 20 minutes. Surface things mostly. How his physical therapy was going. What Zoe was studying. My promotion at work. It felt surreal, this polite conversation with someone I'd once shared everything with. Finally I stood. I should go. I hope your recovery continues to progress, Cameron. I really do. Thank you for coming, he said. Both of you. Rita hugged Zoe carefully, then looked at me. Thank you, Natasha. For giving him this. I just nodded. Outside, Zoe and I walked to my car in silence. Once inside, she turned to me. How do you feel? Strange. Sad for what we lost, but not sad I lost it, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think it does. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, Mom. You handled that with so much grace. I didn't need to be cruel. I just needed to be clear. We drove home and spent the rest of the day doing normal things. Cooking dinner together, watching a movie, talking about her classes. The meeting with Cameron felt like it belonged to a different lifetime, not the one we were actively living. That night, Jordan texted asking how it went. Weird but okay. Closure achieved, I think. Good for you. That took courage. Felt more like necessity. But thank you. Want to grab coffee tomorrow? Just to decompress? I smiled at my phone. Yeah, I'd like that. The next day, Jordan and I met at our usual cafe. I told him about the meeting, how it felt both significant and anticlimactic. So you're officially done with that chapter? He asked. I think so. Seeing him confirmed what I already knew. That leaving was right. That I'm happier now. That forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. That's a healthy perspective. We talked about other things. His nephew's birthday party. My latest painting project. Plans for the holidays. Easy conversation that didn't require performing or pretending. Can I ask you something? I said eventually. Always. Are you okay with how things are between us? The ambiguity of it? He thought for a moment. Honestly? Yes. I like you, Natasha. I'm not going to pretend I don't. But I also genuinely value your friendship. If this is all it ever is, I'm okay with that. If it becomes something more someday, I'm okay with that too. There's no timer on this. That's a relief. Because I'm not ready to rush into anything. But I'm not opposed to seeing where this goes naturally. Then that's what we'll do. No pressure. Just two people enjoying each other's company. That conversation felt like its own kind of closure. Acknowledging possibility without demanding certainty. Being honest about feelings without forcing outcomes. Over the next few weeks, Zoe went back to school and life returned to its new normal. I worked, painted, hiked, read. Jordan and I continued our pattern of casual time together. Nothing dramatic changed, but everything felt settled in a way it hadn't before. The meeting with Cameron had given me what I didn't know I needed. Confirmation that leaving had been right, that I didn't owe him my life, that moving forward was not only okay but necessary. I wasn't the same woman who'd stood in that hotel room a year ago discovering her husband's betrayal. I'd been transformed by the fire of that experience. Burned away was the part of me that diminished herself for others, that believed suffering in silence was noble, that thought love required martyrdom. What remained was stronger, clearer, more authentically me. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, that felt like more than enough. 2 years after everything fell apart, I stood in my backyard on a June evening, hosting a small gathering. Renee and Brian were there with their boys. Deandra from work with her husband. Jordan, who'd become a genuine part of my life without either of us forcing definitions. Zoe, home from college for the summer, glowing with confidence and stories about her sophomore year. The garden I'd planted had flourished into something beautiful. Flowers bloomed in colors I'd chosen. The vegetable patch I'd added last spring produced tomatoes and peppers. String lights hung between trees, casting everything in a gentle glow. "This is lovely," Renee said, squeezing my arm. "Look at what you've built." "It's not just the house," I said, gesturing around. "It's all of it. The life. The peace. You did that. You chose yourself and look what happened." I watched Zoe laugh at something Jordan said, easy and comfortable with him after 2 years of watching our friendship slowly deepen. There was something growing between Jordan and me, undeniably. But we'd let it develop naturally without rush or pressure. We'd been on dates, spent holidays together, talked about everything. But I still had my own space, my own life. We were building something alongside each other, not enmeshed in each other. "So when are you two making it official?" Deandra asked, following my gaze. "We're not putting timelines on things. We're just being." "That's healthy. Wish I'd had that wisdom when I was younger." Janet from work arrived with her husband, carrying a bottle of wine. "Congratulations on the promotion, Natasha. Director of Patient Services. Well deserved." The promotion had come through last month. More responsibility, better pay, the opportunity to shape policy for the entire pediatric department. I'd worked hard for it, proven myself repeatedly. It felt earned, not given. As the evening progressed, I found myself standing alone for a moment by the flower beds, just observing. My home. My friends. My daughter. My life completely mine. Cameron was still living with his mother, last I'd heard through Zoe's occasional updates. He'd made small progress in physical therapy but remained largely dependent on Rita's care. Simone had apparently moved to another state after her own divorce. Their affair had cost them both everything, but that wasn't my burden to carry anymore. Jordan appeared beside me, handing me a glass of wine. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Better than okay. I'm happy. Genuinely, surprisingly happy. You should be. Look at everything you've accomplished. It wasn't easy. The best things never are." He smiled. "Can I tell you something?" "Always. I love you." Not in a way that requires you to say it back or change anything. Just, I love you. The woman you are, the life you've built, the strength you show every day. I wanted you to know. My breath caught. I looked at this man who'd been patient while I healed, who'd never pushed, who'd let me set the pace of everything between us. "I love you too," I said, realizing it was true. Not the desperate kind of love I had before, where I needed the other person to feel complete. But the healthy kind. Where I choose you because I want to, not because I have to. He kissed me then, gentle and sweet. When we pulled apart, I saw Zoe watching from across the yard with a huge grin. Later, as guests began leaving, Zoe pulled me aside. "Mom, I'm really happy for you. With Jordan. With everything. Thank you, baby. How are you doing?" "Really? Good. Great, actually. I'm thinking about switching my major to social work. Helping families navigate difficult situations. Maybe I got that from watching you these past 2 years." Pride swelled in my chest. "You're going to be amazing at whatever you choose. I learned from the best." She hugged me tight. "You showed me that it's okay to set boundaries. That self-respect matters. That you can survive when your world falls apart and build something even better." After everyone left, Jordan helped me clean up. We worked in comfortable silence, a team without needing to discuss it. "Stay," I said as we finished. Not a demand, just an invitation. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. We've been dancing around this for months. I'm ready." He stayed. And it felt right in a way nothing had for years. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through my burgundy curtains, Jordan still sleeping beside me. I slipped out of bed and went to my reading nook with coffee, watching the garden wake up. My phone showed a text from Cameron's number, though I suspected Rita had sent it. "Heard about your promotion. Congratulations. You always were the stronger one." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. That chapter was closed. Nothing he said or did could reopen it. Instead, I pulled out my journal, something Dr. Walker had encouraged me to keep. I wrote about the party, about Jordan, about feeling settled in my own skin. Wrote about plans for the future. A trip to Paris I wanted to take, advanced training certifications for work, maybe someday helping Jordan start the group home he'd been dreaming about. Zoe came downstairs in pajamas, yawning. "Is Jordan still here?" "Sleeping upstairs." "Good. I like him. He's good for you." "I like him too." She poured her own coffee and joined me, curling up in the chair beside mine. We sat together watching the morning, mother and daughter, both of us transformed by the fire we'd walked through. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think you'll marry Jordan eventually?" "Maybe. If it feels right. But I'm not in a rush." I spent 15 years in a marriage that looked perfect from the outside but was breaking inside. I'd rather have something real that grows slowly than something pretty that collapses. That's wise. She grinned. Look at you being all wise and stuff. I laughed, throwing a pillow at her. Jordan appeared in the doorway, tousled and smiling. Is this a private conversation or can anyone join? Anyone who makes breakfast can join, Zoe declared. He saluted and headed to the kitchen. Soon the smell of eggs and bacon filled the house. We ate together at my kitchen table, the three of us, and it felt like family. Not replacement family. Not trying to recreate what was lost. But something new and authentic. Later, after Zoe left to meet friends and Jordan went home to handle his own weekend tasks, I walked through my house. Every room held evidence of the life I'd built. Paintings I'd made in class, books from the book club, photos of Zoe's graduation and our Hawaii trip. Evidence of a woman who'd chosen herself and found happiness in that choice. I thought about the woman I'd been standing in that hotel room 2 years ago, discovering the affair. How broken and lost she'd felt. How the future had seemed impossibly dark. If I could tell her anything, it would be this. The pain doesn't last forever. The judgment from others fades. The guilt you feel about choosing yourself will transform into pride. You'll build something beautiful from the ruins. You'll find yourself again, maybe for the first time. You'll be okay. Better than okay. You'll be free. My phone buzzed. Jordan. Thinking about next weekend. There's a music festival 2 hours away. Camping under the stars. Want to go? 2 years ago, I would have checked with someone else, made sure it was okay, worried about judgment. Now I just texted back. Sounds perfect. Count me in. Because that's who I was now. A woman who made her own choices. Who honored her own needs. Who understood that love without self-respect wasn't love at all. I walked out to my garden, to the space I'd created with my own hands. The flowers bloomed bright in the afternoon sun. The vegetables grew strong. Everything I'd planted had taken root and flourished. Just like me.